Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me as always is the tiny townsfolk herself,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Littletown. Now, if you want to see our opinions on Littletown, check out Rolling with Reviews, Littletown, our other video. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. In Littletown, you acquire resources to feed your workers and build up the town. When you place a worker, you acquire available resources or activate buildings in the 8 surrounding spaces. When you activate another player's building, you must pay them a coin first. Players collect victory points by using the powers of buildings, constructing buildings, and achieving goals dealt to them at the beginning of the game. After 4 rounds, whoever has the most victory points wins. All right, so Will, how do the rules change for 2 players?
So for 2 players, there are going to be workers and houses. There are going to be meeples for each. You'll use the maximum a number, which is 5 workers and 7 houses for 2 players.
Yep.
All other player counts use less of these workers in different amounts.
Right.
But 2-player has the most. There is no bot, so you don't have to worry about a little Chiquita banana.
No.
That's the only changes for a 2-player.
All right, so issues at a 2-player count, you can pretty much play the whole game without interacting with each other?
Yeah, we found that as you went on, since you had control of half the board, you just made your side of the town and they made their side of the town, and there was no reason to interact with each other.
No, it in fact, in some of the other issues, kind of prevented us a few times from interacting even when we wanted to.
Yeah, the main reason being is in 2 players, the economy, which are the coins, are the smallest amount. You start off each player with 3 coins, and getting coins is tricky.
Yes, it's very tricky because you could, if you're doing a random setup, end up with a game that has no buildings that produce coins. So if that happens, your economy is 6 coins.
Yes.
Total.
You're just trading between each other.
Because the only reason you would spend those coins, mostly, is to activate other people's buildings. Now, there are some buildings where you could pay coins to get resources, but when you do that, then those coins are relatively out of the game.
Yeah, they leave the economy.
Right, they go into the bank or the supply or whatever.
Yeah, the other thing you can do with coins is spend 3 of them for a resource of your choice. Again, that goes to the bank and gets removed from the overall economy of the game.
Right, so everything seems just a little bit harder to do at a 2-player count when it comes to the elements of interaction. Because, otherwise you're encouraged to just set up your part of the town and just activate your part of the town because your buildings don't cost you to activate, or the natural resources around.
They don't have an additional cost.
Right. Well, it's true. Some buildings will say pay a resource or coin to get something. It's like a conversion building.
Yes.
And that will be a cost. But when you activate other people's buildings, there's that additional cost of giving a coin to the other person.
And it's per building you use.
Right.
So that can add up real quick. You're like, I want to activate all of them. I don't have the money, so therefore I can't.
Yeah. The other thing is, because you're using the most number of workers possible, it feels more punishing because you have to feed everybody. But then that means almost, at least at the very beginning of the game, you're using 1 or 2 workers just to make sure you have food to feed all your workers. And it can take some time to actually build up enough resources to have some left over at the end of the round for the next round. And there's only 4 rounds in the game?
4 rounds in the game.
So if you're spending the first 2 rounds, every single round making food, and it's not till the 3rd round that you have some food left over for the 4th round, it's just really it's not a fun aspect.
Yeah, and I can imagine some people are thinking, well, what if I just don't feed them? What's the punishment? Well, the punishment is for each worker you can't feed, -3 points.
Yeah.
That is a lot of points.
It is. This game, like the biggest buildings give you 10 points.
Right.
Or 11, I think. One might give 12. But it's still one of those things that it also costs a lot of resources to make those. Most of the buildings you're going to be building are worth 1 to 3 points. And then you're trying to use abilities, because there are a lot of the buildings you use resources to make points, and that's, when you put a worker down,
Yeah.
you activate all the things, and there's going to be a lot of them that are like turn in a wood and a stone, and you get
2 points.
2 points.
3 points is a big hit.
Yeah, it
Especially
really is.
also if you look at the gold cards, they're only worth 2 or 3 points.
Right. And those have really high requirements, in my opinion. And some of them you may not ever be able to do,
Right.
depending on the buildings that actually, because when you do setup, you set up a certain number of tiles, and that's it. You never get more.
12 tiles.
12 tiles.
And then you have 5 wheat
Yes.
fields.
Yes.
So 17 tiles, and it doesn't matter the player count. This is the same for 2, 3, or 4 players.
Right.
17 tiles possible to build for that game. That's
Yeah,
it.
And that's it.
There are extras, so there are varieties
Yeah,
from game to
there's
game,
a lot of variety.
but they don't refill.
Right, and looking at the distribution of buildings, not that many just produce. I want to say, other than the wheat fields, because those are like 5 of them. Other ones, I think there was only like 6 or 7 that produce.
And some of them actually require you to pay something.
No, I'm not talking about those.
Well, there was one that was like pay 1 to get 2 wood.
Right, that's what I call the conversion ones.
Oh, okay.
So there's the just gain something, like just gain a wood or 2 coins or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the conversion. And I think when I was looking through them, the bulk of them are conversion, and the bulk of the conversion ones are all into victory points, not gaining resources. A lot of your resources are going to gain from the board itself is pre-printed
Yeah.
with
which is only
stuff.
wood, stone, and fish.
And that's it.
There's no natural spot for wheat. There's no natural spot for money.
Right.
And those are actually the 5
Yeah.
resources.
And then there's a few in this last category of just like points. They're worth points, a lot of points, or based on stuff around it, that kind of end game type of thing.
Yeah.
So I forgot where we were going on that one, but yeah, it
Feeding your workers.
Right, feeding your workers. So there's
Yeah.
not a lot of ways to make food. I think, though, those are the biggest issues at 2-player count.
Okay.
But what it does well, there's only 2 of you. So you can do more and do what you want.
You have to do more
Yeah,
because
you
you're
have
doing
to.
half the game.
You are half the game. You're gonna build more buildings. I'm assuming in a 4-player game, those 17 tiles are gonna get spread a lot more out between players.
Well, if I recall correctly, in a 4-player game, you only have 5 houses. So you can only build 5
oh,
things.
that's true.
But there's still only 17 things to build. And if you're doing the math quick, that's 20 possible buildings with only 17 tiles. That means someone's going to be out not building something.
Yeah,
That's if they can even afford it to build everything.
that's true. The math and balance just seems a little off.
Yes.
Okay, that's the 2-player experience. Accessibility. Okay, so biggest challenge is going to be that the resources are cubes, and so that means they're color based, they're gray, they're brown, they're blue, and they're yellow. It really is going to have to, you're going to know your color vision issues. What's going to get confused? I just wish, I know this is an older game, but I just wish they had done shaped pieces.
Well, that, and I think you said the cubes themselves weren't too bad,
Yeah.
in person. The problem is they're also printed on the goal cards.
Right.
And that's where the real colorblind issue comes in. If you're working off of a pure gradient off of a card and it only shows 1 cube, you don't have anything to compare it to, so you're
Yes.
not exactly sure, was this the brown or was this the gray or
Yeah.
was this the blue? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that is the trickiest part, is not so much the cubes, but the cards themselves. I do believe there was some room on the cards, so if you really like the game enough, you could write on the cards. I know that's kind of a last resort. People don't like to modify their cards,
Yeah.
but that is something that you could do, find a sighted person to modify right on the cards. Not going to help you as much on the cubes, but you could also Sharpie the cubes, at least on one side.
Yep. Or heck, on all 6 sides.
You can just draw
Draw little fishes on the blue.
Yeah, just draw little fish and everything. Additionally, the player colors are white, orange, red, and purple. I am myself most worried about people who have the orange and red, but even then, red and purple can be a problem.
True.
So
Take a look at the picture.
hopefully if there's hopefully only one person who has color vision issues in the group, be white, because
Less confused?
less confusion. It's hard to confuse white with other things.
Yeah.
Some of the iconography is just not really intuitive, but there is a reference sheet included. So if there's anything on the tiles that doesn't make sense, you can look it up. We did still have to look a few up on BGG, I feel like, because there wasn't like a full explanation for all of them.
Right. And there is a small little expansion. It's like the goodies.
Yeah, bonus goodie tiles.
Yeah, bonus goodie tiles. Those you do have to get the instructions online.
Right. They're not in the box, but it is a download on BGG, so you can get it there. Okay, so accessibility, what it does right. The coins are different sizes.
Yep.
So that's good, and they're labeled clearly. The reference sheet is good. I mean, it did help with most of the questions that we had. And overall, though, cognitively, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, fairly light to learn and play.
Yep.
This is what I'd probably call a starter game
Agreed.
to get you into it. I think most hardcore gamers might like, I've grown past this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Conclusion.
Conclusions, 2 players.
Probably not. It's probably just not going to be the most satisfying. Not that you can't. I just think most people are going to be more disappointed.
Yeah, especially if you have enough game experience under your belt, which is why I brought it up. You're going to see this game's flaws and not see any of what it has to offer. So 2 players, I would definitely say avoid it because it's not a great experience.
Agreed.
Accessibility.
It's probably going to be mostly fine for most people. Again, the colorblind issue is going to be whether the resources give you a problem or the player colors, and whether you're willing to modify for them.
Yes. And I'd say it does help to have more players.
Agreed.
So that's it for us. Sarah?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you more of a developer design question here.
Okay.
Now, on the gold cards, we did mention that there is a little sign. It's like a triangle with an exclamation mark. And this is what the rules say. Take a look at these cards because they may be not possible to play with.
Yeah.
What comes to mind for you, like with your developer hat or your designer hat, when you see this and the rules state that?
It feels like to me that they didn't have enough other interesting ways to score, and so they could only think of situational ways to score, but because of the random setup, that situation just could be possible not to occur. So as we'll say probably more in our review, there's a lot of development that really could have happened with this game to make it better. And I think that's one of the big areas where if you had come to me with that concept, I would have worked with you as hard as possible to not have those in the game.
Yeah.
I just don't think that... I don't think you should make the players do the work to figure out whether or not they can actually achieve a goal. I mean...
Especially if they're learning it for the first time.
Especially considering how light this game is.
Yeah.
The audience that it's for, I feel like that could just really confuse the right audience.
Right.
The casual gamers that would enjoy this would be confused on the why do I have to figure out whether I can actually achieve this?
Right.
Shouldn't the game tell me?
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and for me, when I saw that and heard that, I was like, this game isn't balanced.
Yeah.
That's just purely my gut reaction. It's like, this game's not balanced.
Nope.
When that was called out in the rules and showed up in the cards, that was the red flag for me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your opinion on it, but that's mine.
Yep, I agree.
All right, and why would you ever roll with just one when you can be rolling with 2? If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two, that's TWO. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Discord, we have a channel on Tabletop Express. Check the show notes for the invite link.
If you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.